Purim is over, but the Simcha doesn't have to stop. Let's talk about it.
You believe that a Yid will win in the end. That if you stand with Hashem and you stand for what's right, you will march across the finish line. You will have victory.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, back to another episode of That Jewish Podcast. I am your host, as always, Yirmeyahu, and I thank you so much for joining me right here on this show. Everyone who's local in Memphis, who has come up to me and said how much they enjoy the podcast, how much they enjoy the write-ups of my family in the Jewish scene, or whatever it may be. It's truly appreciated. All the support, all the love that me and my family get constantly is greatly appreciated, and we thank you. We do not take it for granted. Listen, if you haven't done so already, I want you to share this podcast with a few people that you know, whether you share it online, whether you tell somebody that, hey, this Jewish podcast exists. It's a good podcast. It's helping me. It's blessing me. Whatever it may be, share it. Continue to listen to it. Continue to engage with it. So if you listen to this on YouTube or on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify, somewhere where you can write a review or write a comment about it, please do so. If you see something engaging online on Instagram or Facebook, please go ahead and write comments in that as well as engage with me on our WhatsApp group. All these groups, all these social medias, the links of them are in the show notes below the description of this podcast. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, let's get right into this episode. So today, I want to talk about something that may sound simple, okay? It may sound simple, but in reality, it is incredibly powerful. And you may have gotten a hint from what I said in the intro. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the aspect of joy. Joy, not happiness. Because happiness depends on happenstance. It depends on the circumstance that you're in. So we're not talking about happiness. I'm not talking about entertainment. I'm not talking about distraction. But I'm talking about joy as a spiritual discipline. So not just a spiritual discipline, but also joy as an act of resistance. And to explore this idea, I want to turn to one of the most profound spiritual teachers in Jewish history. You may have heard of him. You may have not have heard of him. I don't know. Especially if you've been in Yerushalayim during the Yom Tovin, you've definitely seen some of his followers dancing in the street with their vans and loud music. I'm talking about none other than Rabbi Nachman of Breslov. So Rabbi Nachman famously taught, mitzvah gedula liot ben simchat tamid. It's a great mitzvah to always be in a state of joy. Now, when people hear that teaching, sometimes they misunderstand it. They think Rabbi Nachman was saying that we should always feel happy, but that's not what he meant. So Rabbi Nachman understood human suffering very deeply. He struggled with illness. He lived through loss. He saw the pain of exile and spiritual confusion. He understood depression. He understood despair. And yet, precisely because he understood those things, he taught that joy is not a reaction to life. Joy, ladies and gentlemen, is a decision about how to face life. Again, joy is not a reaction to life. It's a decision about how to face life. If you don't know Rabbi Nachman, let me tell you a little bit about him, just a tiny bit. There's a million books about him. I'll put the Breslov Institute a link into the podcast show notes as well. But Rabbi Nachman lived in the late 18th and 19th century, the late 18th and early 19th century. So the late 1700s and the early 1800s. The Jewish world during that time, let's be honest, was struggling a bit. The communities were poor, spiritual life was fractured. many Jews felt distant from God. Many felt spiritually exhausted. And in that environment, Rabbi Nachman gave a radical message. He said, if you fall, even if you feel distant from Hashem, even if your life is messy, you must never give up. One of his core teachings is Ein Yeush Ba'olam Klal. There is no despair in the world at all. Think about that for a moment. Not less despair, not reduced despair. But Rabbi Nachman said there's no despair at all. That's a bold claim. But Rabbi Nachman wasn't denying reality, okay? He was addressing something very dangerous that we would describe today with a modern psychological term, learned helplessness. Learned helplessness happens when a person experiences repeated setbacks, repeated failure, or repeated suffering until they begin to believe that nothing they do really matters anymore. At first, a person tries to fight. They try to improve their situation. They try to pray more. They try to work harder. They try to change things. But when those efforts don't seem to work, something begins to happen inside of the human mind. The person slowly starts to believe, why bother? Nothing will change. It doesn't matter what I do. And to be honest, once a person reaches that point, they stop trying. They stop striving. They stop believing that their actions have meaning. And this doesn't only happen to individuals, ladies and gentlemen. It can happen to an entire community. So I've seen it with my own eyes. I look at it several times a day, as a matter of fact, right here in Memphis, Tennessee. A community that experiences long periods of hardship can slowly internalize and believe that improvement is impossible, that people begin to lower their expectations. They stop building, they stop dreaming, they stop believing that the future can be different from the present. And once that mindset sets in, once it spreads, the damage becomes deeper than poverty or hardship, and it becomes spiritual paralysis. And this is why Rabbi Nachman fought despair so fiercely, because despair convinces a person that their efforts are pointless. But Judaism, ladies and gentlemen, it teaches the opposite. In Judaism, every mitzvah matters. I'll say it again. Every mitzvah matters. And that's why we have so many. I was at an event just the other night. It's a community gathering of learning. So Jewish people of all different kind of backgrounds, whether you're conservative or reform or Orthodox, you're religious, non-religious, you go to, you're Shomer Shabbos, you're not Shomer Shabbos, you eat kosher, or you eat at whatever restaurant that's in your city. All the Jews were there learning together. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing that takes place every year at the Memphis Jewish Community Center. And my Rabbi Finkelstein, I was listening to him in his class, and he was talking about the quote unquote burden of the 613 laws. And his crescendo, his climax was that, no, actually, they're not a burden. We have 613 laws. The more laws you have, the more opportunities you actually have to connect with Hashem. So yes, you may be terrible at Shomer Shabbos, but man, you are amazing at honoring your parents. You may not eat kosher, but my goodness, nobody can beat you in chesed. So although you may drop the ball over here, there's so many more opportunities for you to pick another ball up and do so very well at them, that even in that one mitzvah that you do perfectly, Hashem honors that. Hashem sees that. Hashem rewards that. So even every prayer matters. Every small act of goodness matters. Even if you can't change the entire world, you can change the very moment you're in right now. You can change your next decision. You can change the direction of your soul. Rabbi Nachman believed that the Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination, loves despair more than anything, because once a person believes that nothing they do matters, the battle's already lost. So how do you overcome helplessness, this learned helplessness? How can you overcome this? What does Rabbi Nachman teach that helps you overcome this? So Rabbi Nachman gives us a path, ladies and gentlemen. You begin with small victories. You find one good point. You do one good mitzvah. You take one step. None of this stuff happens overnight. One, then another, then another, then another. Each small act breaks the illusion that you are powerless. Each act restores the sense of agency, and each act rebuilds hope. And over time, those small acts begin to transform the way you see yourself and the world. And that's why Rabbi Nachman insisted, Ein Yeush Ba'olam Klal. There's no despair in the world at all. Because as long as a person can take one more step toward Hashem, despair is never the final truth. Rabbi Nachman also taught something very surprising. He said that sadness is one of the greatest obstacles to spiritual growth. What does that mean? Why would he say that? He says it because sadness, just like learned helplessness, shrinks a person. It makes the world feel small. It makes God feel distant. It convinces you that nothing will change. But joy, joy does the opposite. The joy expands the soul. Joy creates energy. Joy opens a person up to hope. And that's why Rabbi Nachman saw joy as something you must actively pursue. Not wait for it, not hope for it, but create it. He even suggested very practical things. So if you're feeling down, he said, dance, sing, clap your hands, force yourself to move your body. Why? Because sometimes the body can lift the soul. Even if the joy begins artificially, eventually it becomes real. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, I have experienced this. I have done this, and I'm telling you, 100% it works. You having a bad day? Get in your car on your way home from work, put on your favorite song, put on your favorite music, turn the volume up on that music, and have yourself a good old party inside of your car on the way home. You don't want to do that because you think everybody's going to be looking at you on the highway. Fine. When you get home, go into your room, turn on your boom box or whatever you have, crank the music up and have yourself a dance party all by yourself. Yes, it sounds silly. It sounds absolutely silly, but I'm telling you, not only will you feel good afterwards, you might drop a little bit of calories as well. So it may have a dual effect. And the joy that you had to manufacture actually becomes real joy. And you'll walk out of your car into your home, not bringing the drama of your day to your family. You'll come out of your room feeling lighter and better about the world around you. See, we live in a time of constant anxiety, news cycles that never stops, social media that consistently compares our lives to others. And this is a problem because we get on Facebook, we get on Instagram, we get on TikTok, and we see these influencers or these multimillionaires, these athletes and entertainers, and we say, I just wish I had that. If I just had a little bit more of this, my life would be this. If I had a little bit more of that, my life would be that. But if you had a little bit more joy, you can be content in the place Hashem has you for now. Because reality is most of the people that are, quote unquote, got it going on social media, they film that in some rented Airbnb. That car's not there. That's a rental from Enterprise. They begged somebody to let them in the club so they can snap a couple of pictures. They weren't in there all night long. They're on the Jewish side, they may not even be studying like that. They might not even be diving in like that. They might not even be dedicated like that. And you think you're so behind. You think you're so out of the loop because you think thousands of people are doing this impossible thing. When in reality, you can be whoever you want to be on social media. It's not a real thing. So quit comparing yourself to people that you don't even know. Strangers that have no impact whatsoever on your life. And we also live in a world where negativity spreads faster than hope. That's why I had to get off X, formerly known as Twitter. Had to get off of that place. It's a cesspool of negativity. Masked in quote unquote free speech. That's unfortunate. But many people today are struggling, just like in Rabbi Nachman's time, with despair. Spiritual despair, emotional despair, even despair that comes from society. And in that environment, Rabbi Nachman teachings become incredibly relevant. Because joy becomes an act of what? Defiance. Choosing joy. That's the key word. Choosing. It's a choice. Choosing joy means refusing to surrender your soul to darkness. It means saying, yes, the world is broken, but I refuse to let the brokenness define my inner life. And that idea connects deeply with something else in Judaism, the belief that every human being carries a spark of holiness. No matter how far a person falls, no matter how confused the world becomes, the spark never despairs. And Rabbi Nachman taught that the part of spiritual work is searching for the good point. Again, the part of spiritual work is searching for the good point. In Hebrew, he calls this Azamra. Finding the good point in yourself. Finding the good point in others, even when it's difficult. The question, though, is, Yirmeyahu, how do I find this good point? Great question. Let me help you answer. This teaching is actually incredibly practical. Most people are very good at noticing their failures. When I say most people, I'm including myself as well. The failures, my shortcomings as a father, my shortcomings as a husband, my shortcomings on my job, the days I may miss, the day I may miss an evening davening. I don't miss chakra that often. I try to make that wrap the feeling. I have to be either out of town to miss my regular minyan, which I'll find a minyan somewhere else, or I have to be like sick enough where I can't get out of bed, so I'm not going to work, and that's the only way. But even in then, you feel your shortcomings. They're before you. They're obvious. They're glaring. And we replay our mistakes over and over and over and over and over. It's like a bad episode. We dwell on what we didn't accomplish, and we focus on where we fell short. But Rabbi Nachman says, stop. Find the good point. Maybe you prayed even when you didn't feel like it. Maybe you helped someone. Maybe you controlled your anger. Maybe you simply got out of bed and faced the day. That's a good point. And when you focus on that point, something begins to grow. Hope grows. Confidence grows. Spiritual momentum grows. And Rabbi Nachman believed that once you find even a tiny point of goodness, you can begin to rebuild your life from there. Now, this is important. I want you to hear this. I want you to hear this. I know I said you have to manufacture joy sometimes, but that is not the same as faking it until you make it. Rabbi Nachman did not believe in fake positivity, right? Judaism does not ask us to ignore suffering. The Torah is honest about pain. The book of Tehillim, the Psalms, is filled with cries from the depths. King David said, out of the depths I call to you, Hashem. Jewish spirituality includes tears. But Rabbi Nachman's insight is that sadness cannot be the final destination. You can't stay there. We cry, we struggle, but then we stand up again. Joy is the decision to keep walking with Hashem even after heartbreak. So what's the secret? When you look at Jewish history, something remarkable stands out. Despite exile, persecution, and endless challenges, the Jewish people never lost their ability to celebrate. We dance at weddings. We sing at Shabbos tables. We celebrate the festivals with simcha, joy. That joy is not accidental. It's spiritual resilience. It's a declaration that no matter what happens in history, the soul of Jewish people cannot be extinguished. Rabbi Nachman tapped into that ancient Jewish strength when he said, joy is not naive. Joy is powerful. Joy is courageous, and joy is holy. So you may be asking, how do I apply this teaching to my daily life? I'm about to give you 3 simple practices inspired by Rabbi Nachman. You ready for them? I hope you're ready. All right, here's the first one. We said it before, but it's very important. Find one good point in yourself every single day. Just one. Not 613, just one. Secondly, create moments of joy deliberately. Do it on purpose. Sing during your commute. And it's one of my favorite ones I love to do. Dance with your kids. Celebrate Shabbos with real enthusiasm. Thirdly, refuse to surrender to despair. When negative thoughts say it's hopeless, answer them with action. Pray, do a mitzvah, help someone. Small acts rebuild the soul. And these are the practical steps, not 10 steps, not 12 steps, not 20 steps. 3 small steps to get you started, to try to find that one good point. Before I close, I want to tell you a cool story about joy from Rabbi Nachman. So there's a famous story told about Rabbi Nachman. One of Rabbi Nachman's students once came to him feeling completely broken. Okay, and the student said something like this, kind of paraphrasing, but he said, Rabbi, I try to serve Hashem, but I keep falling. I feel distant. I feel discouraged, and sometimes I think maybe I'm simply not capable of being the person I'm supposed to be. So the Rabbi, he listened carefully. And then he told the student something surprising. He said, you must force yourself to be joyful. And the student was confused. He said, Rebbe, how can I be joyful when I feel this way inside? Rabbi Nachman responded, start with the smallest thing. Find the one good point within yourself. Maybe you said a prayer. Maybe you resisted doing something wrong. Maybe you simply refused to give up. Rabbi Nachman said that once you find the one good point, you should rejoice in it, celebrate it, hold on to it, because that point of goodness proves something very important, that your soul is still alive. And from that single point of goodness, you can build another and another and another until slowly the darkness begins to lose its power. And Rabbi Nachman believed that joy doesn't come after spiritual growth. Sometimes joy is what makes spiritual growth possible. So, Rabbi Nachman once said that the whole world is a very narrow bridge, and the most important thing is not to be afraid at all. Joy helps us cross that bridge. Joy reminds us that even in the broken world, Hashem is still present. And as long as we keep walking, keep searching, keep choosing light over darkness, there's always hope. Thank you as always for listening. And like I say every week, light up the darkness, change the world. Peace.
Thanks for listening to That Jewish Podcast. If this episode meant something to you, helped you grow, or made you feel more connected to the Jewish people, please follow or subscribe so you don't miss future conversations. Share this episode with a friend, especially someone who sees things a little differently. That's how unity gets stronger. And if your platform allows it, leave a rating and review to help more people discover the show. Also search That Jewish Podcast on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and WhatsApp. This is a space for thoughtful conversations about Jewish life, Jewish identity, and bringing all of Israel closer together. Until next time, stay connected, keep growing, and keep showing up for one another.